What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of La Liga Insiders, my first of 2023, and it feels good to be back. And it feels great to say a big hello to Martin Ainstein and Gustavo Hoffman. Gustavo, welcome, at least the first time that we're on this side together, and it's great to be working, of course, with both of you. But let's get right to it because a lot happened this weekend. Before I get ahead of myself, here's the menu of the day. Barcelona is the only leader for the moment because Villarreal defeated Real Madrid, and boy, did they take advantage of that. And what's new with our insiders? Of course, the latest information, and we can't forget a little bit of extra time. We saw so many extra times in the World Cup. We're going to keep that trend going here on La Liga Insiders. But after those mix of results, as we just saw in the menu of the day, let's take a look at the table and how things shifted now after this weekend, because Barcelona is up top with 41 points, 3 points clear now of Real Madrid. And of course, following them not so far away in third place is Real Sociedad and of course Betis, that will see Barcelona only in a few days. But let's get right to what Barcelona was able to do after that Real Madrid fall against Villarreal. We're going to take it part by part now. Gustavo, I'm going to start with you because Barcelona, at the end of the day, got the job done, right? But how convinced were you with this result?
Hello, Christina. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to be here with you and also with Martin Ainstein, my friend here in Madrid. Well, it was a match. We can say that Barcelona was the better team on the field till he scores. After the 1-0. Atleti gave a good answer on the pitch. They attacked Barcelona because always when we criticize Atleti, when we criticize Diego Simeone, we say, well, Atletico de Madrid isn't a team that attacks so well. They can be more offensive. They have so many good players. They have so many quality players, and they usually don't attack too much their opponents. Yesterday against Barcelona, we saw Barcelona be the best team in the first 25 minutes. They scored on the 22nd minute, a brilliant goal scored by Ousmane Dembélé. Great play by Pedro and the assist by Gavi. For me, no foul on Reinildo. After the match, there was too many polemics about it. Reinildo thinks that it was a foul on him. But after that, after the 1-0, I saw a team, Atletico de Madrid, playing well, creating chances, but couldn't get the goal. They just couldn't get the goal that they needed to tie the match. But I think that Atleti played a good match. And also after the match, I talked to Jimenez. I also talked to Reinildo, and they both think that even with the loss, they leave the match with the head up. You know, they think that they decide the match, decide what happened on the field. They think that Atletico played so well, and Reinildo thinks that they deserved the win.
Yeah, and a lot of people too thought that what we saw at the end of the day with the 3 points for Barcelona didn't necessarily reflect what we saw in the 90 minutes, of course, between these two teams. Let's see what Xavi thought about it. And Martin, I'll ask you about this Xavi quote now. What did he say? These are 3 golden points. It's important to keep a clean sheet. Without playing so well, we got the 3 points, but we suffered. We have abused the back pass. The game has been complex and difficult. It's a key team victory. Martin, what do you think?
It is a very important win. And not only is a very important win, it's a very important moment to win. Because Real Madrid has lost. They can, be the owners of the top of the table. They can have more confidence in themselves. Barcelona is a team that has suffered a lot with it was their DNA to create chances, to do important things, to be an offensive team with a ball possession, and they have lost that on the way. And I think that Xavi is understanding that the best way to come back is to start from where you have to start, not conceding goals. Feel strong in the back. It is controversial in Barcelona because this is just the opposite of what Barcelona historical historically was. It was a team that was Cruyff, Johan Cruyff used to say, you have to score more goals than your opponent, you know. And Barcelona right now is not thinking about scoring, but is thinking about defending themselves. But I think it's a good start, and Xavi has this aura, has this as a figure, as a celebrity, as you know what he represents for the club and for Spanish football. He has a very important, backup, and he feels strong enough because what he means for the football and for the club to go against the current, to say, you know what, I know Barcelona is this, but we're going to go in the other direction because this is what we need right now. So it's a clever move from Xavi. Barcelona is the best defensive team in La Liga right now. They have only conceded 6 goals, 3 against Real Madrid in El Clásico. So these are great numbers for a team that is building up, and they're starting from 0. They're starting first without concede, and then we can see what we can do. But we need to gain confidence back.
Yeah, and that confidence back, as well as not having to deal with so many important injuries. Ronald Araujo is back. And speaking of injuries too, we know that Pedri has been able to be back now, full swing, of course, for Xavi, and he actually credited Xavi for the goal that was created as well at the end of the day. So that's what Xavi said. What did Diego Simeone say? Of course, Gustavo, you mentioned a little bit about what his impressions were of this match, but he said the reality is that we lost, but it's true that the team made merits to take another result that didn't arrive. The areas are still decisive. We are left with the feeling that we did more good things than bad. So yeah, it's a good point, right? We know that they're very far away from even the first few spots in the table. But what can Diego Simeone take from what he said and turn those good actions into points for Atleti?
It was working well after the World Cup because they won 2 matches in the Copa del Rey. They beat Elche 2-0, and they were so confident for this match. And I think that they can keep on with this confidence, because when we talk about Atleti, for me, for example, I really don't expect too much from this team of Atleti, because we always know how they're gonna play. It's a very predictable team. We know how things work with Diego Simeone. But yesterday we saw an offensive Atleti after the 1-0. We saw some different moves. Like, for example, they again had the line of 5 defenders, but it was with Llorente on the right side, not Carrasco on the left side. Carrasco was ahead of Reinildo, who was the left fullback on this line of 5 defenders. So I don't know if I'm being so good with Atleti, but I think that yesterday I could see something more, because as I told you, I really don't expect too many things from this team. What's going on? What's going to happen now with Atleti? Atleti is 14 points behind Barcelona. So to think about title, it's impossible now. They must think about Champions League, and it's going to be a huge battle for Champions League. We have Real Sociedad with another incredible season, another incredible work by Emmanuel Alguacil. We have Betis, Atletico Bilbao, Villarreal. We're going to talk about Villarreal. So Atleti is not in a good position on the table. Yeah. Now they're out of the first 4 teams on the table. So it's not going to be an easy season, and Atleti must recover themselves and know that they're going to have a very, very, very tough season.
Who's visiting you, Martin?
Is my daughter Mila.
Hi, Mila.
She speaks very well English.
Well, she needs to tell us about what she thinks about Real Madrid now. Oh, she's so beautiful.
You're on TV right now. Okay.
Mila, come join the show. You can hang out whenever you want. Oh, she's great. All right, let's get to, Gustavo just mentioned Villarreal, right? And We know we want to make light of the situation with Real Madrid, but the reality is that they're now in second place. Barcelona is up there, and like Gustavo said, the competition is only getting tougher with more contenders after each season that we're seeing now as a trend with La Liga. But with Real Madrid, the simple question, and maybe a complicated answer, Martin, is what happened? Why couldn't they get the 3 points against Villarreal? And of course, we know that Carlo Ancelotti mentioned that he wouldn't have called either of the penalties that the teams got each apiece.
Yeah, I think that it was both penalties. We can argue if they were penalty or not, but they didn't have any importance in this final score. Villarreal was much better than Real Madrid. They play an amazing game. It is a team that is always so prepared to play these kind of games. Before the game, we were checking the stats, and 7 draws. At the La Ceramica Stadium in the last visits for Real Madrid. So it's very difficult for them to win at that stadium. It's a very, very good team. They play really well. I think that Quique Setién did a great job, and he understood that the philosophy they need to have is an offensive team that needs to have create chances. And here is Paula. Sorry, but my girls are coming
they want to be
all
part
the
of
time.
the party.
Qué lindo. Yeah, they want to be part of the party, So, ya voy, mi amor. Okay.
They have just arrived from the school.
So,
my daughter, my son is right here also.
Working from home, I don't understand the kids part, but yeah, it's classic working from home.
Is there space too?
Dads,
So we have to get used to it.
It's great, yeah. The more the merrier.
So what happens, Chris, with Villarreal is that they are a tough team, and it's very hard to play against them. But nevertheless, Real Madrid is not at a great momentum. They were not at a great momentum before the World Cup. They're not very well right now. And I was talking to Carlo Ancelotti after the game, because he was really concerned about what was happening, or what will happen with the team after the World Cup, physically, in terms of the way they will play the competition, the way they will perform, if they have focus, if they could be ready to play in probably the most important moments of the competition. And he had that question mark, what will happen with their players. And I asked him after the game, can we say that Real Madrid is not fresh, that the team is struggling to get their best shape out of the players? And he said, no, it's a football problem. We didn't defend well. We didn't close the midfield and the back line, and we let Villarreal to put passes in between the lines. So, but I disagree. I think that they probably measuring, because Real Madrid have a lot of technology adapted to the players, and they get the numbers out of their performances. I think that the World Cup is these consequences, the way the team is playing has to do with the fact that they have been playing a World Cup 3 days ago, and they are not back yet. They're not back mentally, they're not back football wise, and it's hard for them to recover. I think Real Madrid has a great squad. It's a very difficult game to play against Villarreal, but they look not fast. They look slow. They look like not very concentrated on the game, and they were not as fresh as Villarreal. Real Madrid was struggling, and Villarreal was flying. That was
and
different.
it doesn't help with the fact that for the first time in 121 years for Real Madrid, we didn't see not one Spanish player in the lineup. as we can see here. Of course, a very talented squad. I'm not saying that because there weren't any Spanish players that's why Real Madrid lost, but it's still a really strong statement with everything that was criticized around Luis Enrique, which we'll get to for our extra time. But Gus, at the end of the day, what do you think about this statement that Carlo Ancelotti kind of makes and still can't get the result? Makes the statement on purpose or not, with not putting a Spanish player in the line?
Well, I can understand. I really can understand the size of this new, when we say that Real Madrid, one of the main Spain symbols, doesn't line a Spanish player for the first time in its history. I really can understand it. But for me, as a football fan, it doesn't mind me. Really doesn't mind me. Because it has already happened with Internazionale. It has already happened with Benfica. It has already happened with some other major clubs in Europe. So when we talk about European football, we're talking about, when we talk about La Liga, we're talking about a league that has the best players in the world. So we're going to have players from every part of the world here. So for me, it is not a problem. But I can understand the symbol that represents Real Madrid and how hard it is for Spain not to have a Spanish player on the starting 11 of Real Madrid. But again, as a football fan, for me, this is not a problem.
Yeah, and it's so true what you said with the fact that it's kind of the modern era of football being reflected in one of the most important, symbolically speaking, Spanish teams in history. So it's really interesting. But at the end of the day, you see these big signings too, Endrick being, a recent one for Real Madrid and not being a Spanish player. But at the end of the day, it's kind of adapting to modern times. But I know maybe a lot of fans won't even like that statement. But all right, we're going to switch over to some insider information. I know you guys have some good things prepared for us today. Gustavo, I'm going to start with you. And of course, we know it has to do with Savic and Ferran and what happened with those little colored cards that they saw yesterday.
I have a curious history about it, because everybody saw the clash between the two players on the field, the red card for both. And then I have to explain. In La Liga, because we have the rights of the rights of the championship, we can make the flash interview. That is an exclusive interview with players and coaches. So in Civitas Metropolitano, the flash interview area is right after the tunnel that takes the players and everybody to the field. So when Savic and Ferran Torres received the red card and they left the field, they went through the tunnel and then they had to go through the flash interview area where the journalists are and where I was. So I could see and hear Ferran leaving first, and then comes Savic. Savic completely crazy, calling Ferran. I couldn't understand exactly what was Savic saying, but Ferran was looking to him and saying, "What do you want?" And Savic was calling him, and then they were almost going to the locker room. Then comes someone from the field and screams, "Come back, come back! There's the VAR!" And both players look to them, go back to the field, go back to the tunnel, and some seconds later, come back to the locker room, and then everything in peace. No problem, no discussion. Everybody was calm then.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. I love hearing the behind the scenes reaction, because we usually just see them leave and we're like, okay, they're going to go in the locker room. But they're leaving that statement of leaving it all on the field to a completely different level and still taking it into the flash zone, because it happened in the last minutes of the match, of course, that double red card. Martin, we're going to stick, of course, with Atletico de Madrid and the situation with Joao Felix, which was something that has been kind of talked about since he was signed, right? All these expectations, what's going on with him?
Well, the news is developing as we speak. The news is that they have found a new house for Joao, Chelsea, will be his new place on loan until the end of the season for 11 million euros. The agreement is a verbal agreement as we speak. They might have, going through the paperwork, and we have to see the clauses. If there is an obligation to buy from Chelsea at the end of the season, or if it's only an option. But the situation was not good for Joao as Atletico Madrid from the players' perspective. Simeone was okay with that. I mean, Simeone is very clear with the players. He says, if you want to be here, you have to go by my rules. And my rules are you play as I told you to play. And Joao didn't want he didn't agree with what Simeone have said. Defensively, he didn't want to work. He was unstable. For example, he was injured the last 2 games, the Copa del Rey and another game that probably, the game he had just after his World Cup performance. So there was doubts of his of what he was doing at Atletico de Madrid, and I think that the relationship, even though Simeone wants him because he's a valuable player, there was not a good relationship with the locker room, with the players at the locker room, with Simeone, and Atletico was looking for a way out, a good way out, because they were not forced to sell, as for example Barcelona a couple of months ago. Atletico de Madrid is a club right now that is in good health economically, so they have time to wait and see what was the best offer. And Chelsea, on the other hand, has no time. Things are not going well for Chelsea. They have lost a couple of hours ago. They don't have good feedback, good feeling of the squad they have, and they're not performing, and they're not getting the results. So they need to diminish the fire, and Joao is a good way to do it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to hear that he wasn't fully committed in training, which at the end of the day, I mean, really affected him, because it feels like he never reached the potential, or if he did, it didn't even last that long. So it's a sad situation because of the talent, as you both know, that Joao Felix has. And it'll be so interesting to see his speed in what the Premier League is and that physical aspect of it. So that situation, Martin, as you told us, developing still. Joao Felix looks to be a blue very, very soon. So we're going to stick with Atletico de Madrid and other developing situations with Felipe. Now, Gus, what do you have?
The Brazilian defender, Felipe, 33 years old, he has a contract with Atletico de Madrid until the end of the season. And the most probable situation now is that his leave. He will leave Atletico de Madrid at the end of the season. Felipe is a player who in Brazil played very well with Corinthians, and now Corinthians can be a destiny for Felipe after this season. As I said, he has a contract until only the end of the season. He's the last option of the defenders in Atletico de Madrid. He has played only 2 matches in this season of La Liga. So Diego Simeone almost doesn't count with him anymore. Yesterday, for example, Mario Hermoso was suspended, and again, Felipe was the last choice. He stayed on the bench, even with the team playing with a line of 5 defenders. So a player with 33 years old, a contract that runs until only the end of the season, 2 matches until now, the most probable situation is that Felipe will leave Atletico de Madrid at the end of the season.
Yeah, tough situation and tough sensations that we're seeing and feeling now, defensively speaking, with that situation with Atletico de Madrid. And maybe a different situation now and feeling that we're seeing, Martin, as you can tell us a little bit more about, defensively speaking, with Barcelona.
Yes, after yesterday's game, we get to know that the sensations at the club, not only for Xavi, but also from the sporting director and his people, is that they have a really good defensive line. I mean, there were doubts of how Koundé will play as a right wing. There were doubts at the beginning of the season if Jordi Alba was going to be, the player, or Balde will be ready to play in the left back. There were doubts with Christiansen, who was the substitute for Rudiger at Chelsea, and there were doubts of how Ronald Araujo was going to be after his injury. And the game last night was an amazing proof, and there were great sensations and great feedback of how Barcelona is doing, and good signs of a team that is building up. Christensen played very well. Araujo was probably the best player for Barcelona, but Christensen was behind the scenes the player that can be the perfect socio for Araujo, who is the leader of the defense. Koundé, that was a player that has been injured, and there were doubts of him playing as a center back or as a right wing. Played very well, and Barcelona needs to build themselves again. So what we heard from the sporting director, what we heard from Xavi, what we heard from the whole Barcelona expedition to Madrid, they were very happy, and there were good signs that Barcelona finally has good news on the table after what happened with probably after El Clásico, the most challenging game they
you read my mind with saying finally they don't have to deal with that kind of situation, because it seemed like it was their biggest weakness, and they've managed to turn that situation around, even with Koundé being injured, and of course Ronald Araujo, who missed the World Cup, coming back with that motivation. It can only be positive news for Xavi, but of course they have that challenge to keep it up at least to the end of the season. That's easy though, right guys? All right, let's take it back to Real Madrid and what's going on with Rodrygo's situation, who has nobody representing him. Gus?
Exactly. Now Rodrygo officially doesn't have an agent representing him. What's the impact of this new for Real Madrid? Today, none, because Rodrygo has a contract with the club, is very happy at Real Madrid, but for the player, it changes many things. Rodrygo used to work with Nick Arcuri, that is a Brazilian agent very close to his family. Since the end of the last year, Rodrygo is without agent, doesn't work anymore with Nick Arcuri. Of course, that there are still some questions, some things between the player and the agent, but officially now he's without agent. Everything now it's up to his father, Eric Gois. But the most probable situation now is that Rodrygo will look for some agent. But officially now, so Rodrygo is without an agent. And as I said, what does it change for the club? Nothing. For the player, normally the agents usually look for sponsorship contracts. They look for to many things around his career. So Rodrygo now, without agent, will look for another one.
Yeah, so it's not an alarming situation. It's not like he wants to change his contract now or look for another team now. So he's
has
taking
just
his time.
renewed.
Yeah, he's taking his time with that situation and finding someone that can properly represent him. Not that his father can't do that, of course. But all right, that's very interesting information. As always, guys, with some insider. Of course, you guys live the day-to-day in Spain with what's going on with these teams, and it's always so valuable to have that information with you guys. But there's one more, because we do have to. I was about to switch over, but I can't. I was about to leave this out. Martin, with why Real Madrid is having a tough situation we saw it a little bit pre-World Cup. They wanted, Ancelotti wanted to be, of course, they didn't want to concede any loss, and of course they did that. So what's going on with Real Madrid and this kind of lull that they're in?
Chris, there is concern about the situation, because the way Real Madrid started the season, the way they were confident with what they have. Karim Benzema, the best number 9 in the world. The great performance of that Bini had last season. Rodrygo growing. Tchouaméni was playing really well. Casemiro was someone that we couldn't believe there was a player so easy to replace, but Tchouaméni was doing really well. So all these performances and this confidence that the team got the first 2 months, they lost it. And right now the team is far from that image that Real Madrid have at the beginning of the season. And at the club they're concerned, because not only because the performances are not what they expect. Benzema is he was injured 2 months. He came back. He got injured again. He came back to Madrid, but he's not the same player he was last season. Tchouaméni right now didn't play very well in the first 3 games after the World Cup, and has not traveled to Saudi Arabia to play the Spanish Super Cup, as well as David Alaba. They are both injured, and they said they could be out for 20 days. They will lose the Super Cup games and the Copa del Rey game after that. And defensively, the team is failing. So there's a very challenging calendar for Real Madrid. They play La Liga, they play Copa del Rey, they play the Spanish Super Cup. They have to play the Clubs World Cup in Morocco at the beginning of February. The Champions League is coming against Liverpool. The agenda is very, very tough, and the team is not responding. So, and another concern that the club have, the fans have, and the entourage around Real Madrid have, is why Ancelotti is not changing players. We can see that there are players that they're not fast, they're not fresh, but the players in the bench, we can say Lucas Vázquez, who we thought he was going to start the last game, and he didn't. Nacho, who played really well the Champions League games last season, is not playing or doesn't count for Carlo Ancelotti. Marco Asensio, he's not rotating players. So the question is, will he do that? Will Carlo do that? Will he rotate players? Will Real Madrid have the best version of the key players when the Champions League arrive, when the club's World Cup arrives? So there is concern at several levels in Real Madrid because of the last play, the last games.
And they should be, right? And not to be alarmist or anything, but these points are so valuable, especially coming back from the World Cup. I mean, even what happened this weekend, you slip, and the person or the team who's following you close behind wins, and you find yourself waking up the next day in second place. It's concerning for Carlo Ancelotti. It's concerning for a team like Real Madrid, especially because of what you mentioned, Martin, and that really heavy calendar that waits for nobody, of course, when you're a soccer player in one of the most important clubs in the entire world. So no pressure there for Ancelotti. But Real Madrid loves pressure too. But all right, we're going to get to our extra time now. Thanks again, guys, for that great insider information. So I mentioned the fact that there was no Spanish players, and we talked about it a little bit in that starting 11. We did see, a few of them come in as subs. You mentioned Lucas Vázquez. You mentioned, of course, Asensio coming in. And what a way to turn around the situation to Asensio with how he started the season. But that basically gave Luis Enrique a kind of a trend, or he was a trending topic, of course, again on social media, because he was heavy criticized for not having, brought any of the Real Madrid players to the World Cup. But now everybody's talking about the fact that no Spanish player was lined up in the 11. And I kind of chuckle at the irony, right, of the situation, because the story and the joke kind of writes itself. Gus, what do you think?
Well, I think that it's fun. It's funny to say it now, but I think that everything about it shows that how hard it is for a young Spanish player in Real Madrid to reach the main team. I think that it's all around it. How hard it is for the young Spanish talent in Real Madrid to succeed.
Yeah, it's very true. And the last time we kind of really saw it, Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, was with Isco and Asensio, right? We were like, okay, these are two guys that are coming up, and they're going to be the next Xavi and Iniesta. And I'm not saying that they completely had different, career paths than we thought, but maybe a little bit, right?
The thing is that I understand the concern or some people are not really happy with the fact that there's no Spanish players in the starting 11, but this is not new. I mean, the only Spanish starting player that Real Madrid had was Dani Carvajal. Asensio was never started. Nacho was never started. Real Madrid needs to have the best team possible, no matter the nationality. And this is what they're doing. Real Madrid was not a club known for bringing from the ranks their players.
If it was Barcelona,
we
would be having a completely different conversation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they need to be competitive. They are right now the Champions League champions. They are the league champions. They are competitive. They have great players. They are signing the best players in the market at the best price. When Florentino had the chance to buy Xabi Alonso, he did it. And Xabi Alonso was amazing. When they had the chance to sign important Spanish players, players that they thought they will be the best players in the world, like Isco Alarcón, who at the end he wasn't, but this was the idea. Sergio Ramos at 19 years old. I mean, there are examples, but right now the market they don't have that players, and they have somewhat that works really well to find talent who is Brazilian and gave Real Madrid great deals like Vini Jr., like Casemiro, like Rodrygo, like Militao. So for Real Madrid it works. It worked for Spain. I don't know. Real Madrid wants to have Spanish players in the national team, so maybe they have to try to find in the market players that are Spanish, but that's not their first goal. Their first goal is to win the most important.
Absolutely, and as long as the fans see that results or those multiple results that they always expect from Real Madrid, I don't really hear them complaining anytime soon. But with that, we have to say our goodbyes. It was so great working with you again, Martin, and it was so great to work with you for the first time, first of many. Gustavo Hoffman, guys, thank you so much. And of course, I want to remind everybody to be sure to follow these guys on their social media, their Twitter handles and their Instagram handles. You've seen it throughout the show. And as always, a reminder that you can watch all of La Liga matches on ESPN Plus. That was it for us on La Liga Insiders. We'll see you in a few days.